Okay, so just to be clear, I don't have any verifiable evidence that AOC is running for president, but some people have been talking about it. They've also talked about her running for Senate against Chuck Schumer. I don't know. I am not AOC, but she just did a town hall with Bernie Sanders that was so good. And you see her speaking like someone who's probably going to be running for president in ways that I think are very constructive and helpful. Because look, I know that a lot of us want retribution for MAGA. A lot of us want the voters who put us in this situation to pay and to realize the hard way the consequences of their actions. But two things can be true. People can have a need to learn about what they did with that vote. We do need people to understand how much damage has been dealt to the fabric of American society because they chose to vote for Donald Trump. But also, we can't want people to suffer. Okay, that's what Donald Trump wants. Trump wants his enemies to suffer, and he doesn't give a shit if his supporters suffer. It's all about him. So while I understand the emotional response that you want to punish the people who voted for Trump, they do need to learn a lesson. But we also can't want people to suffer. And I know that I already said that, but that is such an important thing to hit. If we're going to be better than those guys, we need to act better than those guys. And we need to show up and compete for everybody. We need to advocate for everybody in this country to be better off. That's how we will teach this lesson most effectively, is to show them in action what moral leaders can actually do to make their lives better. Let's take a look at something AOC said.
I think it also speaks to a big difference between someone like Trump and someone like me or someone like Bernie, which is that Trump believes that if you don't vote for him, he doesn't have to be your leader. That if you didn't vote for him, that you don't deserve good things to happen to you. I don't care if someone voted for me or not. I don't care if someone is a Republican or an independent or a Democrat. I don't care if someone likes me or not. That will never change the fact that I'm going to fight for them to have health care. I want MAGA to have health care. I want MAGA to be paid a living wage. But he doesn't want people who are Democrats, or he doesn't want people based on their political affiliation to benefit. And that is the difference between a strongman and an authoritarian and a leader of a democracy.
We got to be better. And AOC is giving a perfect example of that. Revenge against the haters and the people who have allowed this to happen is doing good despite what their vision for the country is. Let's take a look at what Bernie had to say.
I would just add as an example, this Saturday, millions of people are going to come out on a No Kings Day. Maybe more people coming out than any time in American history.
Real quick, by the way, I'm going to No Kings on Saturday in New York City. I hope to see you all there. I really didn't want to go, not because I don't want to stand up to authoritarianism, which I think you all ought to do, but because I get very, very nervous in crowds. It reminds me of my childhood, where, as many of you know by now, I was doing this for gun control after surviving a school shooting. So generally, crowds and protests just drive my anxiety up and make me antsy and I'd like to think of myself as somebody who's made of kind of tough stuff, but to tell you the truth, everybody's got their weak points. And when a lot of people are gathered in one space together, whether that's at a club or even in a movie theater, it's just, I cannot be fully comfortable. There's always just going to be this air of discomfort to me. But I'm going on MSNBC at 8 p.m. to talk about No Kings, and I'm kind of afraid that they're going to ask me oh, were you at the protest? And I don't want to be no, but here's what I think about the protest. So I'm just toughing it out. And I'm not trying to throw myself a party about how great it is of me to only go to No Kings because I have to talk about it on television. Obviously, I think that everybody ought to stand up, but have a little bit of understanding for me here, please. This does kind of, I don't want to say trigger me, because videos of people getting shot, that triggers me. Gunshot sounds, motorcycle pops in New York City. That shit sounds like a gun going off. that triggers me. That puts me in kind of fight or flight mode. This doesn't really do that. It's just like, it just makes me really uncomfortable. But I'm going so I can talk about it on television without being a fucking fraud. I do this for free, okay? I don't get, a lot of people think you get paid to go on the news. If you have a contributor deal or something like that, if you're an analyst, you get paid. I'm just a fucking dude. So I go on very regularly, but I do it because I love communicating to people, especially on MSNBC. So I do the news because I hope that people go on the news and say the types of things that I have to say. So if I get the opportunity to share my beliefs, I will take it. But just so you know, if you tune into Weekend Primetime Saturday evening, when you hear me talking about No Kings, just know that I was there to stand up to authoritarianism, as you all ought to do, but also because, I didn't want to be that asshole who either lied and said I was there, I don't want to lie on TV, or had to be like, no, because it reminds me of when I was a teenager. Anyway, Bernie.
Speaker Johnson said this is a hate America rally because people are coming out expressing their concerns about massive cuts to health care and the movement toward authoritarianism. Not a hate America, it's a love America. But the point is, instead of attacking each other in that way, in my view, what we got to do is lay the issues out on the table. We got a healthcare crisis, do we not, friends? All right. We're the only country not to guarantee healthcare at all. How do we move to a healthcare system that guarantees healthcare to a human right? Make sense to you? All right. 70, 80 years ago in this country, if you went to a public college or university, you know what your tuition was? 0. And yet you got all of this increased worker productivity, all of the technology. People can't afford to send their kids to college. They can't afford childcare. People are paying outrageous costs in housing. How do we build the millions of units of affordable low-income housing that we desperately need? How do we save the planet for our kids and transform our energy system away from fossil fuel? Do you know that millions of senior citizens in this country are trying to get by on $15,000 a year or less? They helped build this country. They fought for our country. They're in nursing homes, which are horrible places right now because they're underfunded, understaffed. We are the richest country in the history of the world. How do we provide a good quality life for our kids? Should we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major nation? Highest rate of senior poverty? Those are the issues. You disagree with me? Fine. You got a better idea than mine? Great. Let's go forward. Let's discuss those issues. Let's not attack each other personally, that we're un-American, that we hate America. That's nonsense. That just divides us. Let's come together. Let's discuss the real issues. Let us create the kind of extraordinary country that we know we can create.
So, Bernie and AOC have proven, especially in the past couple months, that as scary as their policies might be to somebody who identifies as more of a political moderate and everything, although I think that's kind of an overreaction, when you actually hear them talk about it, it's kind of a different story, especially with Medicare for All. Medicare for All seems like this scary communism to a lot of people, but a lot of people, even folks who don't support Medicare for All, when you explain what it is to them in terms that they can understand without jumping to conclusions because it sounds like some sort of socialism or whatever, they get behind it. I mean, and Bernie and AOC are communicators that are really good at that right now. And I think that they are being very responsible with the way that they handle the talking to people who are not on their wavelength. I think that they're very good at that. And that's why they've really had a massive gain in popularity with resistance liberal types who were definitely on the Bernie hate train for a while. I love Bernie. I've loved Bernie for a long time, but I totally get the Bernie hate train. A lot of the hate Bernie gets is completely unfair character assassination by Democratic establishment types, totally. And a lot of it he has brought upon himself. Two things can be true. I say this all the time. A lot of Bernie bros are just so incapable of understanding that Bernie Sanders is responsible for a lot of the things people don't like about Bernie Sanders. And I love Bernie Sanders, but also Bernie has said some stuff that was not going to do him any favors. Bernie speaking positively about Fidel Castro during the 2020 primary was not a good look. That is not going to make more people support Bernie or support his policies. Again, I support Bernie, but there's a limit. And he is definitely meeting this moment in a way that I think a lot of Democrats ought to take notes from, because it gets to a point where it's like not about how left a certain candidate is. And we watched Zoran on Fox News earlier, and I think that's a great example too. It's about how you're meeting people where they're at. And that's something a lot of progressives are failing to do right now, and that's something that a lot of far left progressives are unbelievably exceeding at, is talking to Americans about the issues that mean something to them and not being partisan hacks about it. AOC and Bernie, and we're going to watch another clip from this as well, are so above the partisanship here, and it's really important and it's really constructive. There's something that people don't talk about very much from the Biden administration, which is how much AOC and Biden were able to do together. And that's because AOC is a savvy and productive politician who says, okay, even if somebody in office and I do not agree on X, Y, Z, let's see what we can achieve together, and let's focus on that, and let's take care of the disagreements once we've done everything we can to improve quality of life for Americans in the places where we can agree. Let's watch one more clip.
And so I do believe we should be leading by example. And when we have these moments of stark contrast, that we also are clear about the principles upon which our disagreements happen. If I disagree with you, if I as a Democrat disagree with you as a Republican, I'm not going to question your motive. I'm not going to question your allegiance to this country. I'm not going to question your intent and your care. And I believe that when we devolve into that, that is when we are actually stoking division in our country. When we call those who disagree with us un-American, that is what is un-American. And I could not advocate more for the fact of sticking to the facts about things, respecting and honoring the intentions and motives of our fellow Americans, and also trying to elevate and find the areas that we do have common ground and agreement.
Maybe she runs for Senate. Maybe she tries to primary Chuck Schumer. It's entirely possible. But I don't know. Sounds like she's thinking bigger. Call me crazy. With the Bulwark, I'm Cam Kasky. Thanks for tuning in. Like and subscribe.